Hey! So it's been more than 2 weeks? I guess you can say it's been 7 hours and 15 days. Not including the compilation, but I deleted it because it performed really bad. So last year was a pretty good year. 5,000 subs. Let's try and get to 10,000 by June. I don't know. I don't think we can reach that. But 5,000 subs. I did a Jeremy Fragrance dance. For those of you who said I didn't do it, I did do it. Just unlisted the video. And my best video last year was the F1 2019 video with 96,000 views, or it could be 97. I'm not sure. So to start off 2025, let's review the actual 2019 season. But I'm not really going to go in depth in the 2019 season because all the external factors were more interesting than the 2019 season because championship wasn't really there. The races were really good in 2019, I'll say that. But yeah, the championship wasn't really there. But a lot of the things I noticed from current day F1 stemmed from the 2019 season. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about how the 2019 F1 season shaped up the state of modern F1.
Hamilton finds Gasly to the line!
For starters, McLaren dropped Stoffel Van Dorn before the end of 2018, and that signifies the end for all the 2016 rookie prospects, apart from Esteban Ocon, because he will come back in 2020, but we're not talking about him today. So yeah, all the 2016 prospects were gone. They all had a promising career in F1, but it was all just wrong place, wrong time. Apart from Jolyon Palmer, Chef from South Park describes it best.
You have the heart and the soul, but you don't have the talent.
And secondly, the grid changed massively from 2018. You know what else is still massive? Okay, I'll shut up.
No taper fade. You know what's great?
Now sure, it's nothing crazy like the 2024 driver market frenzy we've had throughout the last year. Every other day you'd see an F1 breaking post on social media, but 2019 wasn't that far off because only 2 of the 10 teams remained the same. Those teams were Haas, who kept Grosjean and Magnussen, and Mercedes, who kept Bottas and Hamilton. And you know what? Let's go through every single driver change right now. I'll try to keep it in one take. This is take 4. I nearly nailed it on the first take, and the second and third take I've just been flopping, so let's try and get this on the fourth take. Ferrari went from Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen to Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc. Red Bull went from Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo to Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly. More on this later on. Force India became Racing Point and went from Perez and Ocon to Perez and Stroll. McLaren went from Alonso and Van Dorn to Norris and Sainz. Renault went from Hülkenberg and Sainz to Ricciardo and Hülkenberg. Toro Rosso went from Gasly and Hartley to Albon and Kvyat after missing out a year in the sport in 2018 after getting fired mid-season in 2017. And Williams went from Sirotkin and Stroll to Russell and Kubica, return of the legend himself. Alfa Romeo Sauber became Alfa Romeo Racing and went from Leclerc and Ericsson to Giovinazzi and Kimi Raikkonen. There you go, got it on the fourth take. Oh yeah, I should show a bit of anger whenever I read out Marcus Ericsson's name because he stole Pascal Wehrlein's seat. I don't like you, Ericsson. I love Sweden. I've never been to Sweden. Want to go though one day. So yeah, those are the driver changes in more or less 60 seconds. But a lot of these driver changes were pretty significant. For starters, this was one of the strongest rookie lineups in F1 history. Well, I think 2025 actually tops this one, but still, 2019 had a very strong rookie lineup with Alex Albon, Lando Norris, and George Russell, 2 of which have went on to win a race. Well, I think Alex could win one soon, maybe in 2026 when Williams get their act together. Come on, Williams, they're gonna get a podium with Carlos this year, or maybe that's just total delusion. He's been getting a podium every year since 2019. Oh wait, I guess that's one of the things the 2019 F1 season started. Carlos' podium streak. Anyways, back to the video. So yeah, one of the strongest rookie lineups in F1 history. Who was the best rookie out of all of these drivers? I personally still think it was Alex Albon. I think that was also the opinion at the time.
Try and stop me getting past. That's fine. I'll get through on the grass.
Sure, his record against Kvyat wasn't that great. 27 to 15 by the Hungarian Grand Prix, or was it 16? One of those two. But his record against Max wasn't really that bad. 97 to 76. Should have been 97 to 91, but thanks Lewis. But also, again, to be very fair to Max, he was caught up in a lot of incidents which wasn't his fault in the second half of 2019. Well, I say it wasn't his fault, but it was mostly his fault in Belgium and Mexico. Also, what do you guys think of the Gasly and Albon swap 6 years later? I know Albon was quite bad in 2020, but that was more of a confidence thing, and Gasly was really good in 2020, but I still think it should have went to Kvyat instead, or the better option, let Gasly develop over time. But then again, Red Bull are really one and done with their number 2 drivers. They don't really use them as development drivers. You think Verstappen was a number 2 driver from 2016 to 2018? No, Red Bull were already setting him up for the future. How about Lando and George? Who was better back in 2019? I'll have to give the edge to George Russell. This was his record against Kubica, 16-2. And Lando, yeah, he only scored half of Carlos' points. But looking into 2024, I think George is the best out of all of them. Lando is the second best, and the third best is Alex. I'm not saying he's bad or anything, that's why I said third best, not the worst, because Alex isn't a bad driver, and all of these drivers have a role to play in F1 looking forward. Not so sure about Alex though, but George and Lando definitely do, which is why the 2019 F1 season was a significant year for these rookie drivers. Let's see if the 2025 rookies can produce the same. Hopefully. And a few more insignificant things that happened in 2019 that affected the future of F1. Matte liveries. Before 2019, it was only Red Bull with a matte finish, and in 2019, Ferrari came out with the SF90, which had a matte finish, which honestly, really beautiful car, but I still like the SF71H and the SF70H more. And from 2020 onwards, a lot more teams followed the matte train, because I'm pretty sure McLaren had a matte livery, AlphaTauri, newly branded AlphaTauri, had a matte livery, and fast forward to today, literally every single team, apart from Mercedes and Toro Rosso, have matte on their car. It's either matte or unpainted. I completely forgot to mention Aston Martin. And also Williams' story, which led Haas down the chain of dodgy sponsors. So this is me 30 minutes before uploading this video, and while rewatching this, I completely forgot to mention Racing Point in 2019, which was essentially the structure of what would become Aston Martin in 2021. So yeah, I think it's worth pointing out. Now let's head on to the second most important thing that happened in 2019. The breakout seasons of Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to argue that the breakout season of Verstappen was back in 2016 when Red Bull promoted him from Toro Rosso mid-season after Danny Kvyat terrorized Sebastian Vettel, but I think that's more like his breakout season as a really good driver. Like his breakout season of which driver can this be compared to? Like a Montoya type driver. They're able to challenge the top dog sometimes, but never really able to challenge for the championship because they weren't given the machinery. That's how I believe Verstappen from 2016 to 2018 was. But back to 2019. 2019 was the breakout season for Max Verstappen as a championship caliber driver. Firstly, he got his first pole position at the 2019 Hungarian Grand Prix. And secondly, he didn't really get into a lot of crashes, did he? And this incredible consistency he gained over the 2019 season would eventually lead him to win his first championship in 2021. And all the races that Verstappen won were the most entertaining races from 2019. But we'll get more into that later, after we discuss the breakout year of Charles Leclerc. Now going into 2019, everybody expected Charles Leclerc to be the number 2 driver to Sebastian Vettel, maybe help Seb win the title in 2019, and it'll be used as a development year for Charles Leclerc. But that was completely the opposite from what happened, because right off the bat, Charles was the faster driver than Sebastian Vettel. But Ferrari still wanted to enforce team orders onto Charles, which is why at the Las Vegas Grand Prix earlier this year, he had a complete breakdown in the cooldown lap, because he's always been being screwed over by team orders ever since the beginning, even though he was quicker, although Sainz was the quicker driver in the 2024 Las Vegas Grand Prix. And in the end, Seb got very convincingly beat by Charles, and these were the signs that pointed to Sebastian Vettel's time in F1 coming to an end. Anyways, back to Charles. Remember how I said the 2016 season was Max Verstappen's breakout year as a really quick driver? I think 2019 was Charles Leclerc's breakout year as a really quick driver, not a championship caliber driver. His championship caliber breakout year would be 2024, when he's more mature and doesn't crack as much under pressure. But you can't talk about Charles Leclerc in 2019 without mentioning his one lap pace, because oh my gosh, was his one lap pace incredible. 7 pole positions, the most in that year. To be fair, Ferrari had some illegal fuel burning which would bite their ass in the 2020 season, but still, this was just an incredible feat. And only 2 of those 7 were converted into a race win. He was guaranteed at least 4 wins from these. I think Singapore, they gave Seb a better strategy, but to be fair, I think they were covering off Max Verstappen. And Russia, Sebastian Vettel just, he broke a promise they made before the start of the race to let Seb by at the start because he started P3, giving him a slipstream. And then after that, Seb would let Charles by. And Seb did not let Charles by. He DNF'd. Virtual safety car, was it a safety car? I forgot. And eventually Charles lost the race because of this. So well done, Seb, well done. And also Austria. Now at the start of this race, Max had an absolutely diabolically bad start, which solidified the race win for Charles Leclerc, right?
You only need one, fat boy.
He was able to somehow climb up from P8 to P2, and in the final 3 laps, he was directly behind Charles Leclerc's ass. Lap 68, Max Verstappen gets DRS on Charles Leclerc, and going to turn 3, he gets the inside line of Charles, gets ahead by the apex, but Leclerc is able to maintain his line around the outside and gets a much better exit from this. Verstappen attempts around the outside of turn 4, but to no avail. On lap 69, Charles learned from the previous lap that the outside line will give you the much better launch going to the straight on the exit of turn 3, so he leaves the door open for Max Verstappen. Only problem is, he leaves the door way open and into turn 3. Cue the clip here.
Is he going to go inside or outside? Which way's Verstappen going to go here? DRS wide open, gaining on the Ferrari. Switches early, Verstappen. Late braking. Leclerc this time might just have to give way as he goes off the track. And when he comes back on, Max Verstappen leads the Austrian Grand Prix.
Would you say this is dirty, or would you say it's bending the rules in the regulation? But personally, if I were the FIA, I would have told Max to give the position back to Charles on lap 70, because this was a dirty move. You can see him easing off the steering the minute Charles gets alongside. And can't forget their battle in Silverstone, but I'm not gonna go through all that because I don't want this video to be too long, and I already went through Austria. So there you go, the breakout seasons of Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. But before we move on to the most important reason to why the 2019 F1 season shaped up modern F1, we have to also talk about the passing of 3 very important people: Niki Lauda, Charlie Whiting, and Antoine Hubert. Now, I think we all know the impact that Charlie Whiting and Niki Lauda had on the sport, but the one that hit the hardest was definitely Antoine Hubert, because he passed before he even had a chance to make a name for himself, and he got 2 wins in his F2 season, so who knows, maybe he could be driving for Alpine right now. So these 3 will be missed. And lastly, the 2 most impactful things that happened in F1 in 2019. The announcement of the 2022 regulations, at the time 2021 regulations because of COVID, and also the first season of Drive to Survive. Firstly, I think it's quite fitting to talk about the 2022 regulations because 2025, this year, will be the last year of those regulations. So it was announced back in 2019. I remember the reception being very, very positive, and a few years later, I actually think the reception remained quite the same. Now, I don't know what the scale is between the people who prefer the 2017 regulations and the 2022 regulations. Me personally, I prefer the 2017 regulations because they just look meaner and more complicated and more complex. And there were also more aero variations with the 2017 regulations. Nowadays, they mostly look the same apart from the side pods and the engine covers. Other than that, most of the wings and the noses are pretty generic. Well, then again, the biggest reason to why that's the case was because everyone was trying to copy the RB19. And on the other hand, when Haas first announced the VF22, I thought it looked like a 2014 IndyCar, although to be fair, that was just a show car, it wasn't the actual car they used. Okay, so I'll give you 2 scenarios where a car behind is following you. One of them is the RB19, and the other one is an RS18. What would you be more scared of? I would genuinely be more scared of the RS18 because this car just looks meaner. Yes, obviously the RB19 is faster, but wait. Actually, is it faster? I'm actually not sure. Wait, give me a minute. I'll use Bahrain as the example because I think it'll be the fairest comparison. Okay, so we can see here that in 2023, Max Verstappen set a 1:29.7 the RB19. And if we head to 2018, accept those cookies. Oh, Nico Hulkenberg set a 1:29.5. It's 2/10 quicker than the RB19. Oh. So I'll be scared of the RS18 more anyways. Okay. Now just because I prefer the 2017 regulations over the 2022 regulations doesn't mean I hate the 2022 regulations. I just have a preference. But there is one thing I hate about the 2022 regulations, and that is the engine noises became much quieter. The last F1 race I watched from the 2017 regulations was the 2018 Singapore Grand Prix, and those engines were still decently loud. And a few years later, at the 2022 Singapore Grand Prix, when I attended an F1 race again, the engine sounded really quiet. In fact, I'm pretty sure the W Series cars were louder than the F1 cars. Go check that video, by the way, I made a few months ago. So yeah, in 2019, they planned for the 2021 regulations. They ended up being delayed by a year. And now, in 2025, we're in the last year of those regulations. And who knows, maybe in a few years I'll be making a video on how the 2024 season affected the future of F1. And now, time to talk about Drive to Survive. The F1 community is divided on this topic. So 2019 was the first season of Drive to Survive, and I liked it, genuinely, because it was really the first time most of us F1 fans at the time were able to see the ins and outs that was happening within the sport, and the reception was widely accepted. Now, I actually haven't seen Drive to Survive Season 1 since 2019, so I forgot a lot about what happened. Now, have I seen the Drive to Survive season after Season 1? I watched Season 2, some of Season 3, and only the Haas episode from Season 4. After that, I genuinely haven't touched Drive to Survive since, because I will admit, it's become too fabricated, and it feels more like a reality TV show now than an actual behind-the-scenes look into the sport. But as much as we F1 fans love to dunk on Drive to Survive and Drive to Survive fans, we have to admit, it's done more positive than negative things for F1. I know a lot of you guys are going to come up with a fake fan claims and say some crap like, oh, you're not a real fan because you don't know who Marcus Winkelhock is, or, ooh, you only watch F1 because you think the drivers are hot, which, honestly, if you do, I don't blame you. I mean, just look at 2008 Nico Rosberg. But at the end of the day, Drive to Survive has helped the sport more than it has detrimented the sport, and there wouldn't be that many F1 content creators if it wasn't for Drive to Survive. Like, there would probably still be gaming content creators, but actual race commentary, really the only people who were making F1 commentary videos before Drive to Survive were MSTF1, WTF1, and Shane Bear F1. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Aldas, because he's been making F1 commentary videos since 2018, so a quick shout out Aldas. And if there were creators talking about the real life F1 season, it was probably still coming from the gaming content creators. Like, I remember Arava had a podcast with him, Tom97, an American guy, and I forgot the other guy's name. And trust me, thanks to Liberty Media, FOM's copyright system isn't as strong as it was before. That's why you see more and more content creators using footage of actual races. So that was how the 2019 F1 season shaped the future of F1. So that'll do it for today's video. Pretty fun way to start off the year, I might say. I'm kind of just leeching off my most viewed video from last year, but they're two completely different videos. I'll try to get back into gaming videos soon, but not really interested just yet. I'd rather do more commentary stuff. But until then, like and subscribe if you want to, I guess. Reminder, 10,000 by June. It's probably not happening, but 10,000 by June. And follow me on Instagram. And goodbye.